Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Massive Beer Review Classics. It's that time of year. It's Christmas time. That, for me, means a lot of beer times, you know. Any beer is good for any situation. But Belgian beers, they are my jams during the Christmas time. And I went to a local place, saw this on the shelf. Figured I'd review it because it's one of my all-time favorites. So, Massive Beer Review Classics. Gouden Carolus. This is their Van de Keizer Blauw. Cuvée Van de Keizer. Blauw. Hentanker Brewing, 11% alcohol by volume. This be vintage 2021, right? Yeah, 2021. Yeah, this beer has always been a staple of mine when it comes to just favorite beers of all time, but let alone that, Christmas beers. Even though they do have a Christmas version of this beer. I actually reviewed that beer last year or the year before. I haven't reviewed this since 2016, so I'm super excited to dive into it. But yeah, I saw it on the shelf and I was like, I gotta do it. So here we go. What is on the back here? Because we already read the front. Become a member of the Gouden Circle. GoudenCarolus.be. 11% alcohol by volume, 50 to 54 degrees. This exceptional ale ages well, developing a refined complexity and intense aromas with powerful notes of roasted malts, caramel, and plums. Its surprisingly soft and fruity aroma combines a warm roundness with a refreshing taste. An imperial brew to cherish and enjoy in moderation. Belgian family of breweries, not Trappist. Imported by Anker Incorporated, Wilmington, Delaware. Okay, I know they kind of, their stuff didn't come to the States for a bit. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't have international distribution for some reason. But let's get ASMR on, y'all. Yeah. Maybe that's why. Maybe they made their own importing company. I don't know. So we'll see where that goes. I think they came back a couple years ago, so it might have been after 2021, so maybe they imported older bottles of it. I don't know. But label-wise, listen, this is classic. This beer, I love it, so there's a lot of bias going on here, but this is, like, to me, one of the best labeled beers of all time. It's gotten kind of more mediocre over the years because it used to actually come in a box with a nice ribbon on it and all that stuff. So they scaled down the pomp, but it's still very much the same thing. I've always loved the graphic they've had on this kind of badge going across the front of there, the sash, whatever you want to call it, and something about Belgian beers in a 750 and a corking cage. Always gets me a little bit hot and bothered. Now that looks like a Belgian beer. Give it a nice little aggressive whirl there. That head comes back in spades, and it just has this nice kind of dark, rich, kind of brown mahogany mixture that you associate with Belgian beer so much. You know, it just looks the part of what a Belgian beer should be, especially a Belgian dark. And just has this kind of rich, even the head on it has kind of like it's a malt ball color, but it has this tinge of mahogany to it. So, man, this definitely looks all the parts of good. Let's get a nose. Oh, man. I just want to huff that thing. I could sit there for days. I actually had to force myself to put the beer down because I just want to keep doing it. Oh, my God. It's like... It's so weird to say this because I've said this in so many Belgian beers, beer reviews. Dark ones that are really, really nice. It says a couple years on it, so it's kind of just, it's not hitting its stride, but it's just starting to get its legs underneath it. It smells like fruitcake, man. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like fruitcake. But I love the smell of fruitcake, and that's what this smells like. So it's just this melange of this bready richness, a little bit of molasses, a little bit of date and figginess, and you throw those rich red fruits in there. I mean, all the bits and pieces of what you really want in a Belgian/quad are here, and it's pretty aggressive stuff on the nose. 11%. You know, it's a bigger beer, but it's not the biggest beer in the history of mankind. But, you know, it's giving you just these gobs and gobs from those fruits to the breads, to the sweetness, to the sugars, to the molasses, to the brown sugars. Man, it just has this ultra-rich decadence to it. It's dessert without being the modern age. It's dessert that you would have before refined sugars and those kind of things. It's a bit more of an adulty desserty. Again, fruit cake. Think about that classic log fruit cake that you get during Christmas time. I'm getting those vibes in a very, very nice way. Almost like you even put it, like cut off a slice and sprinkle a little bit of like extra sugar on it and toasted it up in a pan real quick. Those are the vibes I'm getting. I think you can tell I like it, right? Yeah. We're just going to dive in. Cheers, y'all. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. I say this a lot when I do re-reviews of beer I really enjoy. You would think it would be, oh no shit, Sherlock stuff. Like, he's gonna like it. That's all you're gonna get. You're just gonna get him saying how much he likes it, and that's it. Because he already knows he likes it. I think it's the opposite. I think I go into each and every one of these beers that I have a deep and long history with, and I go into it with a little bit more of a picky mind. You know, a little bit more of a picky palate, to the point where I'm like, you know, if it's not striking me the right way, I can be like, you know, I really do like this, but maybe it's not exactly what I remember. Maybe the recipe has changed. No. I am thinking that way, but it is what I thought it was. It is S tier. Just some of the best beer, end sentence, period, on earth. That's it. No hyperbole. Oh. I mean, we can break it down like a fraction. Just watched Ocean's 12 last night. The mouthfeel is not even funny. It's like filthy. It's so filthy, creamy, silky. For an 11% beer to show itself like almost like an export stouts, like porter kind of vibe. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. The sweetness level on this, it's sweet but not overly sweet. It's a bit 11% Belgian dark. It's gonna be sweet, but you can definitely be a little bit undersweet on these. You can definitely be a little bit oversweet for what you're getting here. Spot on sweetness. Malt wise, it's just this rich, like non-roasted, and that's the key. It's a yeast malt combination thing. And Belgian candied sugar plays a huge role in it. But those three components together have to work in tandem. And first up, the malts. Typically, you want to use a darker malt, but nothing too bittering, marisottery, something along those lines. I'm not sure what they use, but something along those lines that you don't have that super overt bittering. It brings a bit of sweetness to the game, gets you where we want to be attenuation-wise, ABV-wise. Then you end up talking about that yeast, bringing a bit of that rich kind of fruity phenolics, and just giving you a little bit of those bready notes, a little bit of the fruitiness, a decent amount of fruitiness to it. And then, to top it all off, you're talking about using a really deft hand at Belgian candied sugar. It's one of my biggest kind of pet peeves or complaints or whatever you want to call it when it comes to American breweries. They tend, if they get Belgian beers wrong, I feel like more often than not, it's a water chemistry thing probably, and it's also a big thing to do with beet sugar or Belgian candied sugar. They're just not using the right thing. And for me, for my palate, for what I've enjoyed over the years, this is just hitting tens. It's just hitting every mark on the spot without any kind of wavering. So, back through the beer again. Mouthfeel. I'm going to use this word. I'm going to use it, and I'm serious. It's sublime. You get into it, and you just get this kind of just bombardment of flavors. Again, there's this kind of sweet, sugary side of things, and there's this fruity side of things. That's how they kind of delineates for me. And this kind of, let's do the sweet kind of things. It's that Belgian candy sugar, but way it comes off for me is a molasses, not blackstrap molasses. There's no kind of bittering there. It's just a regular molasses, kind of creme brulee, brown sugar kind of combination, but without getting really even close to being overly sweet. So it's a little bit softer, a little bit less sharp than what you typically get from like a creme brulee. So again, I think that molasses minus the blackstrap portion of the show kind of makes sense there as far as the sweetness goes. Tempered though, so when you start to move over to the fruity side of things, there's kind of bridge that walks you over there. That's that date figgy thing. To me, date or I should probably say more figgy than date, because that's the way the sweetness would kind of go. There's just a sweetness that is purposeful, but restrained at the same time. It's not over the top. Again, we keep banging on it's sweet, but not overly sweet. And then you get to the other side of the fruit spectrum, which is that rich reddish fruits. You're talking about berries, rich red berries. You're talking about, you know what I mean, raspberries, blackberries. You're talking about strawberry. You're talking about those berries, even cranberry. You're talking about those, but it's not so much a singular flavor for me. It's typically, I default to a phrase of rich red fruits, rich red berries, not because I want to be ultra generic, because I feel like it's in like an almost like you almost a bunch of those together. That's kind of how that fruit kind of comes off for me when it comes to a Belgian beer. And then floating throughout that whole thing is just that soft little kind of bready yeastiness that ties everything together. And everything here is just so expertly woven together. Like, it's just like all those flavors, all of that experience, all the bits and pieces of this beer are one singular thing. They're not like, oh, I'm getting a bit of sweetness and there's some fruit stuff over there and then there's the sweet thing. It's all one wide berth of flavor that is just delivered with depth and complexity that is just leaps and bounds above most Belgian beers, darks / quads, that every time I grab this beer, and I'm going to tell you, it's probably been a couple years since I've had it. I don't know why, because obviously I love it so much I should drink it. I probably had it last year. I'm probably lying to you, but I didn't review it, obviously, because I didn't post it to the channel. This is so good. This is good. This is like some of the best beer I've ever had, and I ever will ever have. Readily available, relatively decent price point. I want to say I picked it up off shelf. I can find it a decent amount of places. Picked it off a shelf, I want to say, for less than $15 a bottle. You know, probably in that $13, $14 range. Man, I don't even know what to say. You know, it's one of those things, like I said earlier, go into it expecting a lot. So I think I'm going to get a little, but I expected a lot and I got more than I expected. This is the beer that I cut my teeth on. And there's some beers that I've enjoyed in the past that I'm not big fans of nowadays. There's beers nowadays that I enjoy that I didn't enjoy in the past. Taste change, people change. This is a metronome. Constant. Does not waver. At least for this guy. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say. You know, is this one of the better Belgian darks that I've had as of late? Yes. Mount Rushmore status. It has been for decades. I'll continue to be unless they screw this up somehow. Bag and availability on this sucker, like I said, off the shelf, sub $15. Come on. And leave you with, if you like, what will you like this beer? If you like Belgian darks, if you like Belgian quads, you drink this beer. If you like, your Mount Rushmore, I would put this up there for me, but let's say most people's Mount Rushmore of quads, and I lump quads and darks together. I think this is somewhere. I don't think this is a dark. I don't think it's a quad. Kind of weird to say that because all Belgian quads are darks, but not all Belgian darks are quads. But it's somewhere in between. But let's just talk about quads because that's where I think this kind of lives for me. West Wiedelden, Rochefort, La Trappe, St. Bernardus, Mount Rushmore status. That's what most people have. If you like those beers, and if you don't like this, we should have a conversation because I'm not quite sure what's going on. So there you go. Reviewing the books. If you like Belgian beers, you like this. If you like good beer, you like this. Massive Beers. Type that in the Googs. You can find me doing the whole social media stuff. And Anker. Have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? Have you had this beer for decades? I've been drinking this beer probably for about 25, 26 years now. So what is your experience with this beer? Is it on your radar? Is it something you've always enjoyed? Anything you want to talk about, put it down there. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a beautiful beer right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers, all.